great to see you again, since I haven't seen you since Sacramento. So can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Carolina Hernandez. I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm an immigrant. I was born and raised in Mexico, and I moved to the States with a desire to become a fashion designer when I was 18 years old. When I came here, I had the dream, right, to go to school, but then I had a problem. I didn't speak English, so I had to go and kind of like learn that first. And then I met somebody who was in the Navy, and I was like, "You're in the Navy?" He's like, "Yeah, you can go see the world." And I'm like, "How do I do that?" And he's like, "Well, you join the Navy." So that's kind of like how I joined the Navy and served on board USS Pearl Harbor and deployed 3 times during my time on active duty. Yeah, during my time here, learning how to speak the language, I remember I used to put stickies everywhere, on the table, on the chair, and I was very determined, because I'm like, if kids can learn another language, I can learn another language. So that was my challenge and my motivation to literally push myself and learn. Part of me, if I wanted to join the Navy, was learning the language, and that was, like one of the challenges prior to joining the service. But then, until this day, there's things that I have to Google. I say things backwards sometimes, but I think it's, part of the process.
So I know you made the Navy a career. So how long have you been in so far?
I joined the Navy in 2000, and I served on board USS Pearl Harbor for 4 years, deployed 3 times. And then when I got out, I'm like, you know what? I kind of love the camaraderie and the brotherhood. So I joined the reserves and deployed again in 2012. So now I'm still in the reserves, and I've been in for 19 years.
So are you going to make it 20 or 25?
I think I want to make it as long as they keep me.
Amen to that. How did the Navy experience change you?
So many ways. I feel like all the skills that I learned in the military, like working in team environments, working with diverse groups, working during stressful situations, I feel like all those skills is what literally the Navy prepared me for. Like right now, I feel like when I do a fashion show, it's the same thing I learned in the Navy, right? Communication, leadership, you name it, right? And it's all because of my military service.
Carolina, we all know when you are in the military, it's can certainly give you a lot of stress. Can you speak to how you dealt with that while you're in and through your work as a fashion designer? Because I think people would really like to know that story.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Being deployed 4 times, it takes a lot of pressure, not just as a person, but family, everything. So after my last deployment, when I came home, I didn't know how to be normal. Like I didn't know how to cope. Like I was kind of ready to leave again. I feel like it took some time for me to adjust to like, no, I'm home. Like I need to, adjust myself and just kind of like start a career or do something where I can just be like everybody else, but I think that's what a lot of veterans struggle with that. So one of the things that I started doing is, besides sewing, because I've been doing it for many years, but literally digging into events with veterans and just kind of like creating art in a way for me to just decompress. Like sewing for me is a way that when I'm sewing, I'm just solving problems in my head. I'm kind of like, when I'm creating is when I'm thinking, oh, okay, then I can fix this, And I feel like for me, it's an outlet to cope with the mental health and the stress pretty much when, after the military service, and even during, military service in the reserve, sometimes we have, things that we're dealing sometimes on a daily basis. And I think for me, fashion is what really keeps me on my feet. And today I'm here with my beautiful models. I make these designs out of non-conventional items, and I'm gonna show you each and every one of them. Today I'm here with my model Haley, and she is wearing this amazing dress made out of teddy bears. And as you can see, I utilized 183 mini teddy bears to decorate this dress. And this is kind of like inspired by the Lolita style, the Japanese style actually, of the costumes that wear in Japan. Okay, and here I have my beautiful model Ken, and she's wearing this dress made out of 3,000 pom-poms. And yes, I glued each and every single one of them in this dress.
How long did it take you to make that one?
I took about like 8 hours to make this dress.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's stunning.
I'm a fast sewer, so.
When you get into it, does the sewing, because this is what happens to me when I edit, I lose track of time.
Oh, same thing. I'm just looking at the clock and I'm like, okay, I need to eat.
Because you get into it and all of a sudden the time flies and it's 3-4 hours later. And I can see how you can make this in 8 hours.
And we have my model, Lachelle. She's rocking this dress made out of 1,280 straws. And as you can see, they're totally functional. I don't know if you'll be able to drink anything with it, but here they are.
How long did it take you to make this dress?
This one I had to do it in 2 days because I ran out of straws. So I have to go get some more.
So hours making the
Like
dress.
about 8 hours usually, because I had to make the base first.
And what is the base?
It's fabric. I use like a regular fabric. See, I make a normal dress first, you know? And then for this one, I use kind of heavy duty fabrics. That way when I stitch whatever I stitch on it, I know it's not gonna rip. Or if it adds weight like a teddy bear, I know it's gonna hold the weight.
Guerra. I'm an Italian old-fashioned from Naples, Italy. I've been here in the United States since 1957, and nearly toward 1968, I was drafted, and I was in the Army as a specialist for, as a canvas repair. I got out late '69 and I was into a car accident, but I got an early out and went to college. Later on, after college and different avenues and divorces and so on, I came to California and I was raising my son on my own. And he had passed out in 2017. The VA was offering a program of bronze figures, casting. So I called Steve Dilley, and he gave me instructions on how to follow up at the foundries in Fallbrook. And I started making a face casting of myself. And in the process of doing that, I proceeded to try to make a cast of my son. However, all I had was pictures. So I started with clay and from the figures and the help of one other artist that was there, Brendan Roy, we sculptured a statue in clay of my son. And then I made a mold and I cast his statue. In the process of doing that, one evening, one of the co-workers there, this was early in the afternoon, he said, I'm going to be right back. So I proceeded to work on the statue on my own, and I had lost time as I was working until I started feeling hungry, and I went to look at the time, and it was after 8 o'clock, 8:30, and I was wondering what the heck, when is he coming back? So I called him up on the phone, and he says, oh, just shut the door on your way out, it's okay. And I was puzzled, not because he trusted me to just shut the door, but I kept thinking where that time went. it felt so calm, serene, and I had totally forgotten about all my troubles, and I was so calm, and I just said, wow, this is better than all these pills and stuff that I've been taking. I feel so calm, and I was so involved in thinking, you know, I couldn't wait till I got home. And the first thing I did is I grabbed the bottle of the L'Oxetine pills that I was taking and flushed them down the toilet. So I hurried up the next day and I was rushed back out to the foundries, and sure enough, the same effect. I started working and I wiped out everything else in the world, and I just continued working on the statue, and day after day, that's all I kept doing. And I said, my God, I says, I don't feel all doped up anymore. This is not only common, I feel so relaxed. It's just, all my routine is like totally gone. It's not that I'm enjoying what I'm doing because of the quest that I'm after, but physically and as well as mentally, I can't wait to come back and keep on doing this. And then I started staying later and later every day. And I found that I don't need these pills anymore. And I continued finishing what I was doing. So when I felt this feeling, I wanted to share with some of my friends. And so I talked to everyone I could at the VA, friends that I knew, and passed down this feeling that I discovered. Couldn't help to tell my friends how calm and this feeling was, working with the clay and wax, and the fact that I didn't have to depend on the pills anymore. It did more than just the pills. It didn't just numb my system, but it just blocked out everything else, and it was like a better results than the meds did for me. And I expressed this to as many close colleagues that I was in touch with, and I tried to bring as many as I could to the foundry and try to let them see them for themselves. And sure enough, they felt the same way as I thought they would. And we just continue on. And that was from 1917 on. And I'm still there now, which is 2023. So, and I've been trying to keep on doing it. And now I tried and produced and worked on doing my grandson's masterpiece through photographs. And the result is finished now. And I'm trying to go forward by trying to do, hopefully, gather in more photographs of my father and do a fourth generation. Hopefully, instead of the 3 Gs, we're gonna go with the 4th G. And time permitting, I like to include my younger brother who passed last year from Agent Orange and Parkinson's disease, so I can do his sculpture, complete the circle. Unfortunately, I had explained to him how this feeling is that I was feeling with the euphoria, and he wanted to come from Boston to here to work. And I took him to the foundry once before. He was also interested, but Parkinson and Alzheimer's had taken over too far for him. And he was one of the catalysts of what pushed me into continue doing what I've been doing and helping others. He was all for it. And that's what's keeping me going. I wanted to help others because I couldn't help my brother. And maybe by trying to help him, I wasn't able to help my brother or my son, but at least I helped myself with the help of VetArt and art itself. I finally found peace through creating art. And I highly encourage others to do the same with the help of VetArt.
Hi, Tony.
Hi.
How are you today?
Fantastic and getting better now that we're together.
Amen. So, Tony, tell me who you are and your branch of service, what you did in the military, and since we're with VetArt at the Bob Hope Patriotic Hall today, I would love for you to speak to the fact of what made you start to create art and how art is helping your mental health.
First, I absolutely believe that we're born artists. And I was creative from the get-go, and especially through public school and high school. I was in everything that related to writing and theater and music and sports. And then I went into the Army and didn't do any of that. Then I went into business and didn't do any of that. And then I finished with those many careers and went into being a free spirit and traveling, and finally got back to being who I was meant to be, which is a creative artist. The universe smiled upon me and gave me the opportunity to reacquaint myself with my birthright as a creative artist. And I happened to go to take university level art classes and ended up with a couple of master's degrees in visual art and theater and a variety of other great subjects. And then one thing led to another, and I became the arts director for the Veterans Museum at Balboa Park in sunny San Diego, California. And I created my own organization known as Arts for Veterans. As the arts director at the Veterans Museum in Balboa Park, San Diego, California, I had the unique opportunity to create a wide variety of programs in literary, performing, and visual arts so that I could satisfy my motto of empowering you through the arts, literary, performing, and visual, and rediscovered for myself that because of my military experience, I'm a Vietnam War veteran and served in the U.S. Army Airborne Infantry. And I suspect that now that I finally realize it, after all these years, that I have suffered for over 50 years with what is called moral injury and survivor's guilt. And I've rediscovered that art making, involving myself with head, heart, and hands in creative activities, allows me to replace sadness and anxiety and any other negative thoughts with happiness, and I displace cortisol with dopamine, and I'm happy to prove over and over again that as a creative artist, I can get high on creativity 24/7, anytime, anywhere, any place, anyhow, just by doing my thing as an artist. So I suggest to anyone and everyone to take a lesson from my life experience, and I might be a little bit older than you are, and I'm happy to announce that great news, you're never too old to enjoy your birthright as a creative person and do whatever it takes to spend at least 15 minutes a day being creative in one thing or another, even if it's just the clothes that you select to wear, the way you arrange your meal, whatever. And if nothing else works for you, get a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, close your eyes, put the point to the paper and scribble, and when you open your eyes, you'll discover your masterpiece for that day. So that's it. Do it to it for yourself, empower yourself and everybody else with creative activity. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Airborne, all the way.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Thomas Miller, veteran, Coronado Island, Vietnam, 8 years, logistics lieutenant, and serving in the Navy. Prior to that, art has been my passion, and after the military, art has become a passion with a purpose. And the need for it stems from myself as well as those that near me, around me, and behind me, and in front of me. As art, as I experience since the military, has empowered more ways than one. Art is basically not an essential as far as my world is concerned, and art has touched me in many folds, from gaining an understanding of a community.
The price of freedom is usually the painting that is my gateway to veterans, to let them know this is my visual tribute to the veteran community.
And also through art, the creativity of it, manifestation of various dichotomy of diversity of people across this great nation. My first cousin, Florence Griffith Joyner, known as FloJo, to us growing up as first cousins, Dee Dee, I created a painting called Joe's Flow, where the magnetism of nature and her gift of speed and elegance on the track field created a whole new surrealism of nature and human resource, which is what the dynamics she had left upon us as her legacy. Another art I created is called Man and Energy. Man and Energy is a symbolic gesture of the pulsating energy once nature and the universe becomes one with man, balancing of the respect for our planet, the universe, and our environment. So I created Man and Energy. Another painting that is dear to my heart is called Love. I use love as part of nature. The tree of the foundation of roots is the foundation of love. Air and water brings the ever-breathing life of love. The vegetation feeds and nourishes love. And the seeds, which is the byproduct of birth, is the byproduct of love, with the fire of a grip to bring warmth, to bring forth the seeds of love, to expanded new life, which is I call love. Another favorite is Universe Travels, which in the whole universe, between speed, light, and man, I envision a still shot of the pulsating energies of flowing, of enigmatic colors, flowing while man is in motion, which is why I call it Universe Sensation. Is known as Travels of Light, and it's called Universe Travels. And then after Universe Travels, I created another one called My Man and Eternal. So in short form, Man's Eternal, which is from day one of man to the evolving evolution of man. I created the nature and the famous scenes of the great libraries of Alexandria, the great minds back then who laid the foundation for us today. Another piece of work that I created is Cave of Perception. In the pre-dawn, I captured the caves in the Arizona deserts. By morning dawn, looking through the light of nature, it takes on a whole new world, which is what nature is all about. Nature is limitless and forever giving, and we need to surround ourselves with it, understand it, and embrace it. So my art gives the power to evoke the senses. My art goes beyond words. And so therefore, welcome to Vibrant Nature and Universe Sensation. Art has empowered me from within. As per my military training and duty, interfacing with severe deadlines, interfacing with reality of facts that no person should endure or see or to understand. Art gave me my sounding board to give me a soothing, tranquility, state of mind, state of place, and state of creativity. And therefore, art has been my sounding board as well as my tranquility and my tonic.
Hi, my name is Aaron Burks. I served in the Navy and the Army. I retired from the Army in 2011. In the Navy, I was a bosun mate, and in the Army, I was in the infantry. I served in Iraq, up by Mosul, and when I retired, I went to the University of Tennessee and got a bachelor's in fine art. I've always been an artistic person, always loved to draw since I was a little kid, so I decided to capitalize on that. I do have combat-related PTSD, and the artwork that I do helps me deal with that. It takes me away from that place and puts me in a totally different spot mentally. Right now, what I'm doing is I go around and I interview every living Pearl Harbor survivor I can find. And then I do 2 portraits of each of them, one contemporarily as I met them and one in 1941. I also interview them and get their story in their words. And this has helped me immensely because it helps to know that there are others out there, and if they can deal with it, these are 98-year-olds up to I think the oldest I met was 104. If they can live that long and be that happy, then I have no excuse really to live in my feelings, so to speak. So interviewing these gentlemen has helped me realize that they have taken their trauma that they've dealt with and used it for a positive good, and that's what I want to do now. And I also want to make sure that their stories, the stories of these Pearl Harbor survivors, survive long past their own life. I want people to see this centuries ahead and know what they did for their country.
Can you tell me a little bit about which branch of the service you were in, what you did in the service, and really the impact of creating art, basically in your case writing children's books, how that has changed you, changed your perspective, and help you heal from your military trauma?
My name is Jimmy Perez, and I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I was raised in a poor upbringing, but strong moral values. And growing up, it served me to learn to serve others. I'm very strong connected with my family. I'm the oldest in the siblings, so I had a sense of responsibility and ownership to what I needed to do to take care of my family with the love and care. And when I joined in the military, I joined as a logistics specialist. I did that for 12 years. Then I got deployed to Iraq. I was in the Operation Iraqi Freedom operation mission, and we were the ones in charge of closing Iraq in 2010 and 11. As the drawdown, we encountered more heavy mortar fire, and they learned that we were the brains of the operation, so they were hitting us with indirect missiles. And I was fortunate to survive it all, and going through PTSD and going through anxiety and depression, I also encountered a loss with my wife. We had a baby that we lost at 5 months old. And she would have been 12 years old last month in August. She would have been 12 years old. And I got out of the service, one of the main reasons why I got out of the service. And I never looked back because I was very proud of my decision. And I was very proud of the service that I did in the Army. So I then wanted to find a way to create a tribute or honor my daughter that's in heaven. And I tried many different things, from playing music, playing the piano, create a version of myself to have a better transitional healing experience for myself getting out of the service, because I was suicidal. I was in a dark place getting out of the service, coming back from Iraq in 2011, and in 2012, the loss. And then getting out of the service is another gray area. So for me, it was really difficult for me to transition. So I didn't find a way to live. I couldn't find a way to live. So I tried planting, I tried different hobbies, and it wasn't working for me. Up until last year and this year, I learned to publish children's books, and that's how I found a way to make a tribute to my daughter and my loved ones. So, and it's a form of expression. So for me, it took a lot of effort for me to put my feelings into these books, because these are just 7 books that I just published on Amazon. And it is my way of healing. Me being present here, me expressing myself to you in your homes about opportunities that I have, and that I had to have a transitional healing experience through the art of creating books, children's books. It's not just the art of creating books, but the passion behind, the reason behind with my loved ones, the connection. It created a strong bond for me. It's unbreakable. So for me, I even have a plan, a 2-year plan for creating my children's books. So I'm looking forward for you to experience my children's books, because this has been my healing transition as a veteran, and through my transgressions from anxiety, depression, PTSD. Thank you.
Jimmy, can you tell me about the book that you have in your hands right now?
This is called My Music Space. This is a back-to-school music book for children, and in all ages, really, because it's not just a composition book. It's a beginner composer's book. When you open the book, you can see that there's a treble clef bar, a staff, and also a bass clef. And in between, you see these dotted lines, these dashed lines. These are to write. The child I create a space for the child to write as well their thoughts, their inspirations, lyrics, poems, in between creating their own music and notes. So that gives them, and also a date on when they created it, so they can go back to it and start their creative musical journey. And in the bottom, as you can see, each page has a band, a musical animal band. In each page, it's 140 pages, and each page is uniquely done to each animal. They're different, they're not the same. And as the child turns the page, they're gonna enjoy, because each animal is different on each page. It took a lot of effort, but I'm glad that I'm able to share this to the children, to the music students, to the music enthusiasts. And at the end, I just have a small piece music logo, that I'm proud of also putting it out there. And at the end, it's at the other part, at the bottom of the animation here, it says "You rock," and then there's an elephant listening to the music. So because the elephant never forgets. So, and at the back of the cover, it's a lone wolf rocking out on his or her guitar, as you can see.
Hello, my name is Manuel Rios, United States Army vet, 63 Bravo. I am in the art show today here at the Bob Hope Pariotic Center. And I like to say that art has done a lot good for me. I've only been doing this for 3 to 4 months, and I love it. For mental issues, it was because I was listening to 45 voices in my head, and these voices are seeming to disappear little by little as each art that I work at. I've done 47 paintings already, and each one of those paintings I've captured faces in these, and I love it because I'm taking it in my mind that I'm capturing this in a picture and releasing it from my mind. So I'm very grateful for this, for the teacher Phyllis Miller, that's been teaching me a lot, for the West Los Angeles VA for allowing me to go into the art class there and to the doing art with Brenda. And I can't say any more than that I just love it, and it's helping me out so much, and I continue to do this, and I love it. And I've never painted with paint, my first time. First time I went into the art show, a creative art show in West Los Angeles, I won first place, went to nationals, but you know, a lot of good work out there. But I'm glad, and I extend my gratitude to everybody that's helping me out there in the West Los Angeles Center.
Manny, can you speak to how art has changed the inner mental demons?
It has changed those demons away because a lot of times it was almost by suicide by cop, the voices in my head were telling, I was hearing things and somebody calling out my name. I had a gun with me as I went outside. I was lucky, I was shielded by something that when I got there, they did not see me and I was able just to walk away. I did nothing. It was just somebody else got shot, but it had nothing to do with me. I just turned to walk away when I seen all the police officers, but that could have been the last day of my life. But I went into the Dom and I got help there and started in 21, went back again in 22, went again in 23, and this is where my beginning starts. I just graduated peer support specialist, and I'm about to be interviewed for a job as a peer support specialist. I want to help out veterans out there too that have been through the same thing as I have gone, and I have been through a lot.
Hi, I'm Pablo Agrio, Marine Corps veteran. I served from 1977 to 1984. I was in artillery. My MOS was 0844, fire direction controlman. I basically computed data so that the guns could hit targets accurately. I spent some time in Korea, Okinawa, and in the California area, Southern California. While I was in the military, I was in an auto accident, very bad, left my vehicle totaled. A friend of mine, good friend of mine, ended up a quadriplegic, very traumatic. I also witnessed some serious events in Korea while I was at the DMZ that caused a little bit of trauma. Of course, at the time, I didn't know that. So when I came back to the States, I applied to become a commissioned officer in the Marine Corps, but I didn't make the cut. And then after I failed to make the cut, I tried.
And can you tell me why you didn't make it a career?
I didn't like artillery. It's that simple. And while I was in there, I applied to participate in an officer candidate program, and I made it there halfway and did not make the final cut. And then after that, I was sent back to the field artillery team. And when I got there, after being away from that job for almost 2 years, I realized that I hated the job and I didn't want to do it anymore. So when they decided that they wouldn't change my MOS, I thought it was time for me to move on. So after 7 years of an outstanding career, I decided to leave. Like I said, I didn't know at the time that I was suffering from mental health issues from some of the experiences that I had, but I continued to push forward. I left the Marine Corps and applied to become a law enforcement officer in the San Diego community, and I was hired. I did that for about 5 years. But during the time that I was working as a law enforcement officer, I got married, became involved with a very young lady that eventually was the mother of one of my son, my only son. And sad to say, those mental health issues that I had that were undiagnosed came home calling. And during that time, I started having issues with domestic violence with my wife. The domestic violence ended up in tragedy because my wife ended up dying at my hands. After the tragic death of my wife, my life turned upside down. Of course, I was arrested, charged with murder, prosecuted, and sent to prison. I spent almost 30 years incarcerated and a life sentence, and it just recently, 6-7 years ago, that I was paroled. While I was in prison, I spent the first 20 years of my life blaming everybody else for my problems and in complete denial about some of the horrible things that I'd done, my belief system, and just trying to close my eyes at the horror and the pain that I had inflicted on others because of my mental health issues.
Your story really impacts me because I grew up in the Marine Corps, and all the veterans, all the World War II veterans had issues, and they never or rarely talked about them. So I would really love it if you could speak to what kind of pick up where you left off. You were in jail for 30 years, is that what you said
Yes,
to me?
ma'am, in prison for...
Okay, in prison for 30 years. When you got out, how did you change your mental health, and how did you learn to look at life from a different perspective?
Well, it didn't happen when I got out of prison. It happened while I was in prison. Like I said, the first 2 decades, I was in complete denial, not wanting to face the reality and accepting responsibility for my bad behavior. But there came a point during that time, battling depression and feeling like life wasn't worth living, that I suffered what I would like to call a spiritual conversion. I went back to my religious roots and sought help, where I went back to my faith and sought to find redemption in the Word of God. And so when I did that, it became easier for me then to start looking at myself in the mirror and really start to analyze who I was, where I'd been, what my belief system had been, and taking responsibility for what I had done. And of course, this all was connected with the hearings that I had to go to before the Board of Parole hearings, because every so often you apply for parole and you have to try to convince the people that are judging you that you're fit to rejoin society. So that's when the transformation, the conversion began. And as you can tell, it was a long process, but eventually I was able to get to a point where the powers to be felt like I was not a danger to society anymore, and that I was deserving of a second chance. I was paroled to the VA campus right here in West LA, and through the assistance of a nice lady, a psychologist that used to go to the prison system to work with veterans. And so she helped me to get to the West LA VA. It was approved by the government, and that was the best thing that could have happened to me. When I got to the West LA VA, I decided to seek help for my mental health issue. And it was then that I finally discovered that I suffered from PTSD. And they helped me to apply for my Service Connect and all that. And it was during my therapy session, talking about all the stuff that had happened to me since childhood, that my therapist at the time then suggested that I write a book about my story, because she thought it was such a compelling story that it needed to be told, because it might help somebody else prevent making the same mistakes that I made. And so I wrote the first chapters of the book with her assistant as part of my therapy. And eventually, before the book was published, I decided to title the book In Pursuit of Happiness, because it occurred to me that all the mistakes that I'd made in my life were simply because I was looking for happiness, trying to be happy in my life. And instead, because of my mental health issues, I just kept making things worse, hurting other people, messing my life up, destroying the potential that I had. And today, I'm happy to say that I'm in a better place. I'm still in therapy, and working with organizations and groups like VetArt.org helped me to find a mission in my life. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to do this interview, and I just want to say that if there's any groups or organizations out there that would like to hear my story, please get in touch with me, because writing the book was one thing, but the main thing to me is to be able to tell my story, to share what happened to me, to keep other people, especially young men, from making the same mistakes that I made. Thank you very much. Semper Fi. God bless.
So I'm here, one of our local veterans, and he's going to tell what branch he was in, how long he served, and how art is healing for him.
My name is John Garcia. I'm from Los Angeles, and I was in the Army in the 90s, and I served in the Army about 5 years. I was stationed in Korea, and did my artwork. Art to me is very therapeutic and healing. It takes my mind off things, problems that I may have, and it also gives me something I can share with other people that makes them happy too. So I think it's a real positive thing, and I encourage everybody to be creative.
And how do you like being here?
I enjoy being here and meeting other veterans and seeing other people that love art and appreciate what it can do for your life.
Is this your first pop-up?
No, I went to the Navy Museum last year when they had a pop-up over there. I'm actually on the VetArt.org, on your Facebook page. I'm the one in the middle in front of the boat, throwing the peace sign.
I seen that picture.
Yeah, and my dad's portrait was a part of the advertisement for this one. So I'm a second time person.
Well, right on. Thanks for taking time to chat with me. I appreciate you. And there's one more smiley face.
No problem. Thank you very much. Cool?
Cool.
So, Margaret.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. And I would love it if you could tell us who you are and which branch you served in and how art and creating art has helped you and is helping you cope with mental health and your military trauma and what creating your beautiful art has done for you.
Absolutely.
Are you ready?
I am.
Go ahead, dear.
Thank you for asking. My name is Margaret Abdullaev, depending on who's saying it. And I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and I had to leave that, and the only way out was in the Marine Corps. So I joined in 1979 and went to Camp Pendleton, and from there my first duty station was Perez Island, South Carolina was the duty station. My first work station was 29 Palms, California. So I was stationed in 29 Palms, California, and it was the first time I had come to California from St. Louis, and I was excited. But it certainly was a difficult place to be, 29 Palms. So I'm not sure I adjusted well, and life went on, and I ended up in Camp Pendleton, and then from there, I didn't stay in long, so I got out on a medical, honorable discharge.
Margaret, what did you do when you were in the Marine Corps?
I was trained in 2500, which is telecommunication, and this is where you learn the little ticker machine that you see stenographers in the courts use. And I'm good with communication, or at least I was at one time. And so I thought I was going to continue with that, but that's not where life took me. And I eventually got out. I turned 21 in boot camp, but I got out when I was 22. Yeah,
I know you were medically discharged.
Medical discharge,
okay,
right.
So
honorable discharge.
Okay, very
Yes.
good, very good. And do you want to talk about how being a disabled veteran impacted your life and how creating your really beautiful artwork has helped you cope better with your military trauma?
Yes, the adjustment of going from being a civilian to a military person is literally life-altering, life-changing, and there are some adjustments that must be made. And when you can adjust, well, you cry or you try to figure it out, you know, and you get in your head and it's jumbled up there, and no one's helping, and you know something's not right. So at some point when I was 16, I started crocheting. After I got out, I realized that I enjoyed creating, and that was the only thing that really soothed my mind. And I continued to crochet. Crochet turned into macrame. Macrame went from there to another level. And every year I was noticing that I'm getting further and further into this. And I had bouts of homelessness and depression, and I'm now a 100% disabled veteran, and I thought I had PTSD, and I recently discovered that I don't have PTSD, which is great, but I discovered I have a major depressive disorder with psychotic tendencies, which means that, well, I guess I hear voices that others don't. I see things that others don't, and that's all right with me. So once I discovered that, you know, I have some disorders that say that I have voices, I turn those voices into creativity. And every piece that I have created is literally the voice in my head projected in real form. So that is what I think. That's what I hear. Those are the voices I hear. Create this. Oh, this looks good. Oh, put some copper on that. Oh, what about covering the cowrie shells with leather? Oh, those are the new voices, and they're wonderful.
Go ahead and show us your pieces
Okay.
and tell us the significance.
So this is one of my African cowrie shell medicine bags, and I put Zen, Z-E-N, with my medicine. And what I do is I macrame and I crochet around a cowrie shell that I have split in half. And in the back of every one of my pieces is a secret place to put a gemstone or a affirmation note or anything that you consider medicine for yourself. And then it's worn as a necklace or a belt or like a purse, like this one. It's the same thing. And I just decorate them with pieces of leather, beads, and other shells.
Excellent. Can you tell me about that incredible walking stick and the significance and the story behind it?
This, I have a incredible and unique walking stick that represents certain places in Africa, with the head and the body. And then there is a crocodile that has a particular message or significance. And I macrameed her a little jacket, and she also has a bag that has a little baby in it. And then I have gemstones in the bag that she carries around.
And I want to ask you about your name tag. And can you tell me, Margaret, your name, and I know it's an African word,
Yes.
and what that means?
I had the pleasure of visiting Ghana, Africa, and I spent a month and a half there. And I found that the Ghanaians have names according to the week, the days of the week they were born. And I was born on a Wednesday. So a Wednesday child, girl's name is Ekua. And so I use my African name, my Ghana name, whenever I can.